failure is a part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the quicker you accept that, the faster you start.
Mm.
Because even for me personally, I struggle and still struggle. But heavily, like when I first started, was the perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
So like I already have this idea, or I'm seeing people on social media
Yeah.
doing what I want to do a certain level.
Yeah.
And that's now my new standard.
Yeah.
And I didn't even start.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Journey Podcast. We are so excited that you are able to join us today. If you have not already, go ahead and share this with a friend or a family member. I got a special guest, a special friend with me, Bradley Reyes. What's up, my man? Let's go, bro.
Hi, guys.
Oh, my goodness. Is this how you're going to do the entire podcast?
The entire podcast.
Hi, guys. You know,
Hey,
just
how's it going?
be incredibly awkward. it's like, oh, my goodness. I regret bringing you on.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm here now.
No, I'm kidding. I'm messing around. But listen, I am so excited for today's topic. We are going to talk about social media and all the avenues that come with it. If you guys do not already know, we have to congratulate Bradley Reyes on becoming a creative director.
Yeah.
Let's go, my man.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Scary.
He is my creative director.
Oh, you're my pastor then. You're my global pastor.
I'm your global pastor. But yes, so now how does it feel being in, that role now? How long has it been for?
I want to say it's going on 3 months. So
3 months?
The beginning of July.
Man, 3 months. That's amazing. Learning how to, lead teams now and all that thing. That's a lot of fun. But I want to talk about social media because honestly, social media consumes a lot of our lives now.
Yeah.
And let's be real. And I want to start off this podcast by saying social media is not a bad thing. It's not. All my content is going on there. So
yeah, that's great.
Nobody would be able to listen to it if it wasn't going through there. But I want to read a statistic for you. Here's a statistic. An average person spends about 145 minutes on social media every single day. That's over 2 hours a day. Over 2 hours a day going through Instagram, Facebook, TikTok,
Everything.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there's definitely been moments in my life where it's like you just get stuck on that scrolling feed.
gosh.
You know what I'm saying? You're scrolling like crazy, and then you get like 30 minutes in, and you're like, I just spent 30 minutes doing this stuff.
30 minutes for you? That mark is 3 hours for me. At 3 hours faster, I'm like, oh, it's 3 hours. It's 3 a.m. Okay.
But it's crazy how that's how they get you. Like
100%.
It's like all these algorithm stuff now. It's like they know exactly what your eye is going to attract to, so they can get more attention from you. And that is the essential thing I want to talk about today, is because the overall thing that social media does is that it takes your time.
Oh my gosh.
It takes your time, and it takes your mindset. And so I think, and I want to be completely honest, is that there is a battle for where your attention is at nowadays. That is the truth. And so now for you, you're in a role of as being a creative and doing that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We work in the same environment, and our jobs literally require us to be on a screen apply in the entire day for both of us.
Yeah.
We have to do different things. But how, as a creative, learning these different avenues and these different aspects of it's all coming at you at once, how do you balance that social media that's trying to consume a lot of your time throughout the day?
I mean, I'll say this. I'm not perfect. I haven't figured out the balance.
Let's just all be transparent, and it's consumed us at one point of our lives.
Yeah. If not now, in the past. I mean, for me, I'm on the later end of it consuming my time and my energy and my attention as well. Is I've been more aware of the fact that, like you mentioned, my life and my career has been surrounded by or involved some sort of screen. Whether it be a computer screen, whether it be a phone, whether it be a TV, whatever that looks like. And finding that balance for me on this later part of it, being more self-reflectant and even just maturing as a man, and maturing as a person, seeing that my attention and my time is valuable. And you kind of touched on it like a couple seconds ago. It was the matter of social media takes your time and doesn't give anything back. But I would like to caveat that it's social media is like money. It's not bad. It's not good. It's however you use it.
That's good.
Where everyone says the root of all evil is money or all this stuff. And it's like, you could say the same thing for social media, because social media is, I'm now rabbit trailing off of the whole balance part of it, but I'll bring it back. Setting up an agenda, essentially. And we have to be careful on what we're going to consume, because I don't know if you ever watched the movie Social Dilemma.
Oh my goodness, that opened your eyes to a lot.
Oh my gosh, bro.
Yeah.
Like, if you guys haven't seen it, go watch. It's on Netflix. I think it's hopefully
still there, right?
Yeah.
It's been a couple years.
Yeah. The one thing that really like stuck out to me was like all these people who were behind the scenes, who were ex employees.
Yeah,
of the companies.
creatives themselves.
Yeah. In their respective field, they were saying like analytically, the companies who are doing social media, Instagram, Twitter, all this, they're analyzing every single minute detail of that consumer. So as soon as, let's say for Instagram, as soon as you open up the app, that's a data that they got now. Now it's tracking your time, how long you're on the app itself, but then it goes even deeper. As soon as you open it up, you get that first initial post.
Yeah.
And they're tracking how much time you're looking at that post specifically.
Even if it's like a millisecond more than some of the others. Like, that's
nuts.
Yeah, that's what they'll track, and they'd be like,
yeah, bro. Like, the fact that they would think that we need to build this like virtual Andrew, this virtual Bradley.
Yeah. That's essentially what they
all
do.
this data.
Yeah.
And it's nuts. That movie,
it's like an individual app for each individual.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And it's nuts. So now bringing it back to the original question, finding that I've been succumbed to that attention grabbing side of social media, I'm now more aware that I need to get away from technology altogether because my life is so consumed by it.
Yeah.
So now I'm finding myself, instead of reading books on my iPad, I'm reading physical books. So now it's taken away.
Forcing yourself.
I'm forcing myself. And then and
that's what I had. To be transparent, that's what I had to do. Was I was realizing, okay, like, where are the parts of my day that I'm spending on social media? You know, if it's outside of work, okay, with, you know, because we run social medias and throughout that for the church and different things like that. But where is it for my own sake, where I'm watching, you know, reels and stuff like that for my own personal time?
Yeah.
Where throughout the day am I doing that? And I had to force myself, and I had to get a friend to literally block off those times. So at a certain time, my apps completely shut off because I already know mentally I'm going, like, for me, it's like maybe like 8 o'clock at night where I'm not doing anything. I'm done, you know, playing pickleball. I'm done doing all these extra activities that I usually do. And okay, now I'm bored at 8 o'clock at night or something like that. But it's like, okay, instead of me doing that at 8 o'clock, what else could I do with my time?
Yep.
And I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to social media, on the aspect of, we have to understand that social media is trying to take our time and trying to mentally take us away. I think this is what the enemy is trying to do, is mentally trying to take us away from spending our relationship time with the Lord and spending time with the God.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And I think that's what it is. And I had to, and this is something that really spoke to me, is because social media is influencing people on a daily basis.
Yep.
And the question you have to ask is, what's influencing you?
Yeah.
Is social media influencing you, or is the Word of God influencing you?
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because we can skew the truth. We're saying that these preachers who are on social media are saying biblical truths, but then now we're replacing our time with God,
with
the truth, with ingesting it from a human's perspective rather than God's perspective.
And then it's the same thing with podcasts and different things like that. Like I would encourage people 100%, like this isn't like devotional time. This is just learning and growth and understanding other people's journeys about it. But there needs to be silent time with God. There needs to be those moments where you can hear the Lord speak in many different ways. So what would you say is like one of the biggest things for someone who's walking and trying to be a creative and different things like that? How do you find, those habits to create a way where you're not so consumed by social media? What are some good habits?
All right, habits. The reason why I said it like that was I'm still developing them. So for me, what I've been finding more recently is that I've actually been lacking on my creativeness, where I'm a critical thinker. So that makes me explore creative ways of doing or solving different problems. But to get creative from a blank piece of paper or a blank screen, if I'm on Photoshop or whatever, or Canva, Canva is not I'm just kidding.
On Canva. It's like, if you're on Canva, you're not a real graphic designer.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm recently started to slowly get into Canva, and like it can do a lot. And it can do.
And AI is about to change it all. It's like
100%,
what people had to take, months to learn. It's about to change people's games. Gosh. They don't even have to learn it. AI is going to do it all now.
Because I don't know if we have time for that one. That's going to be a different podcast. That thing's crazy. Anyways, going back to your question, for me to get creative, I'm learning to just store ideas and be open-minded with the world around me.
Yeah.
So, for example, my expertise is in graphic design. But obviously now being a creative director, I have to grow in other areas of creating, from merch and flyers and all that extra stuff, social media stuff. So now I'm broadening my view on what I'm taking in as creative, what's creative out there. And I'm looking at architecture now. I'm looking at furniture design. How's furniture and graphic design go together? They don't. But it's the matter of being open with it. It's like, wow, why did that couch have that? I don't know, the arm. It was one arm off, and this you can like nitpick and all this stuff. So it's a mentality of like, I'm gonna take how I approach my niche, if you want to use that word, or my expertise, or the thing I lean towards, or my natural bent is. And having that same mentality across all boards.
So you're essentially saying put your mind to something else. Is that what you're kind of...
Yeah, like just broadening your view.
Yeah.
Where I don't have to go on Pinterest or any other Google search and look just for graphic design inspiration.
I see what you're saying.
I can find inspiration in other areas as well. And still get a good product if I'm making something.
That's good. That's really interesting that you say that. And that comes back to what we were talking about before on... the enemy's after our mind. Everything starts from here, and how we, God's created us with different giftings and different abilities and different ways where we can use those gifts to impact other people. And there are so many ways now where in the creative world you can do that. You can share your story, and you can, talk about God on your social media platforms, and you can do different things that really impacts the community and the kingdom of God. And I love what the scripture talks about, how we need to be sober minded to be ready for action. And it also says in Colossians that we need to think on things above. And what I think when I think of that stuff is that social media, when we get consumed by it, when we start looking at other people's profiles and we start comparing our life to other people's life, our minds start to begin to be fooled of so many different avenues and aspects and perspectives that we're not sober-minded. And I love when it says that, because for you to be sober-minded, you are ready for and expecting God to do something. And you're not allowing other things, worldly things and external things, to allow yourself to not be aware of the spiritual things. Mm-hmm. And so for me, when I think of that, is that social media is not bad.
Nope.
It's not bad. But I need my mind to be at a place where I am spiritually aware, mentally, physically healthy enough to be aware of what God is doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that is one of the biggest things for us, is that we have to know that we can constantly be distracted by the things of this world. Mm-hmm. But God is calling us to constantly be aware of what he's doing within our environment.
I love the fact that you brought up that comparison part, because a lot of times, I mean, people might know, might not know, like they're just feeling that comparison, like, it could be somebody's marriage. This friend of mine or this couple I'm seeing on my Explore page is on this like super big date. I'm like, wow, that.
I would love that.
Yeah. I wish my wife or my girlfriend would just take me off my feet, be a passenger princess. But they're taking this out of context, because your context, let's say if this is an ebb and flow kind of moment, and if you want to draw a graph, you're catching them at this higher point in their relationship. You don't know their story. Mm-hmm. So you're comparing, if you feel like you're down here to somebody's higher point up here, that's not fair to you. Yeah. That's not fair to anybody. Yeah. And that's the enemy's tactic. Yeah. It's to say where you're at is not good enough.
And then you start getting into this whole loop of woe me, kind of like, why is my life like this?
God, why are you doing it for them but not for me?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, and that's why I think this is such a great idea for what we're talking about, is that everyone's journey is different. Mm-hmm. You know, and when it comes to social media, I think at the bottom line of it is we can't allow it to consume our lives to the point where we lose sight of what God is doing.
And I love how you brought up that sober-mindedness, that keeping the perspective from God's perspective first, and then into the context of where you at in life. Yeah. Because if I can look at another preacher or someone that's in my field that's higher than me, if I'm taking from God's perspective, so let's say a Transformation Church, big church, well-known, Michael Todd, he's got a great team. Everything they put out creatively, bangers, all right? Now, me as a creative director, I can look at their stuff, follow their creative director himself, and say, wow, this guy's like killing it right now. But I don't know his story. From God's perspective, I know everyone has their journey. My journey is a little bit different. I just started 3 months ago. Yeah. I don't know all the knowledge that he has. Exactly. And I haven't been in the rooms or the conversations he has. And what I've been finding, even going back to the earlier questions of learning and getting creative, is I'm finding that creativity comes from community. Community with God, community with people, community with myself. How weird that sounds, like being within myself and seeing that the gifts and talents that God gave me is enough to create, rather than constantly reaching out, constantly to strive into something bigger and better. But that there's a balance to that too. And let me just caveat with that. We need to strive for or have goals in mind as a mindset. But coming back to it, having the balance of that, God has purposed me right now with the skill sets, with the giftings that I have currently right now, but still be future minded. The fact that I need to still grow. Yeah. And you could take that out of creative and just use that for anything.
And I think I like what you're talking about, and I love the kind of, now we're shifting and talking about how, social media, but now we're talking about, what it means to be a creative, because every single person is creative.
100%.
Every single person. You might not think so. You might not know how to make a video or make anything, but you have creative ideas, and you have different things that God's placed inside of you. And that's some things that we even do at the church. Like, you guys get in circles, and there's people that are sitting at the table that they're probably like, I I've never even created one little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I sitting at this table? Because you might have a different perspective than
Yeah.
every single other person. So what would you say and encourage somebody who wants to be more creative in their field, whatever that may be?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get those creative senses a little bit up?
A little antennas.
A
That's all
little,
I'm
yeah,
imagining.
yeah.
Just seems like, woo.
Little light bulbs that turn on. They're like, you know what? I could do that,
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing is getting other people's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can get out of your own self, in the matter of what you think, the sky's the limit kind of thing. And that's where I find a lot of my creativity is when I'm talking to people like you, other pastors, or even just people in general, my family, a stranger kind of thing. Like, because I'm now opening my mind to there's more to life and there's more ways to think about something.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I have a social media graphic I need to make by the end of the week, and I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah.
I can go on Pinterest, I can go on Google, and go on all these different inspiration websites, but I find a lot of my inspiration and my creative thoughts through conversations. But granted, that's also through my personality as well.
Yeah. Talking it out.
Yeah, talking things out where I can make something, send it off to somebody for feedback, and then coming back and it can be completely different, but it's so much better.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And I think one of the things is you have to have a mindset of just doing it. Like, I love one of the stories that you share of when you were a little younger and your brother was kind of, you've been sharing it a couple times this last couple of months, but you were under your brother's department and different things like that. And he had you make a graphic for him.
Business card.
Oh, it was a business card? It was a business card. He had to make a business card for the youth ministry. What was it? Yeah, for the youth ministry. And you thought it was like the best thing ever.
I thought I knocked it out of the park. I thought I was freaking like, I don't know, Picasso, man. I was a killer.
And then come back, 5 years later, and you're like, you look at it, and you're like,
gosh.
this is complete trash.
I said it to myself first. I was like, what? I made this?
This is complete trash.
And then he comes to me, my brother. It's like, yeah, it was. I'm like, bro, you're not, what?
You told me it was good, man.
Yeah, exactly.
He completely lied to you.
He completely lied to me.
But I think that's one of it's one of those things you gotta do it. When it comes to creativity, you got to go and try, fail, and learn. Like when it comes to different aspects of whatever you're trying to do within your context, is just try it out, see what you like about it, see what you don't, and keep moving forward. Trust me, I'm on YouTube every single day, trying YouTube University, right? Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And it's little by little, you start taking steps to, accomplishing those goals of creativity that you have.
And I would add to that, failure is a part of the journey. And the quicker you accept that, the faster you start. Because even for me personally, I struggle and still struggle. But heavily, like when I first started, was the perfectionism. So like I already have this idea, or I'm seeing people on social media doing what I want to do, a certain level. And that's now my new standard. And I didn't even start. You see what I'm saying? So back then when I was starting graphic design, I'm over here I'm in high school. I'm in public school, and it was a web design class, but it was all Photoshop. It was, anyways. And I'm starting, the teacher's like, hey, make this flyer and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? And he's teaching me all this stuff, whatever. And then I finish, quote unquote, the project, and I automatically destroy it in my head. But then all my classmates, you're like, bro, that's actually pretty good. I'm like, it was kind of thing. But I have this certain standard because I'm looking at my brother.
Yeah,
at the
you
time.
had others who are in that field.
I was looking.
Yeah.
I was comparing.
Yeah.
And social media wasn't too big like it is now back then, which is like early 2010s kind of thing. So that comparison game can really take a toll on somebody. But the faster you accept that failures are part of the process, especially in the beginning, going back to it, the faster you'll start jumping into things creatively. And I would, I remember watching this video recently, and this guy said how some people would say, find what you're passionate about and go towards that. And he was actually saying the opposite of it. It's like you can't have passion for something if you haven't tried it. Essentially, he said it a lot better than I'm saying it right now.
But essentially saying like you have to fail at some things.
Yeah.
To really find what
and that's what he's
passionate about.
Exactly. You have to fail at a million things to see what really stuck.
Yeah.
And then even with that, motivation now is part of the equation. So if you find that one thing that, or a couple things, it doesn't have to be one.
Yeah.
A couple things that you actually like, whether it be merch design or just like handwriting art kind of thing, or painting, whatever. And you're liking that process, you're gonna fail through that. But even with it, the motivation to keep going is gonna fail you. So that's where consistency comes in. And that's where, as a creative, we have to accept the fact of, as we're failing in this, the consistency of our failures is going to bring up that passion and bring up our skills and bring up X, Y, and Z. And you can go off the list with that stuff.
And I think one of the things I had to learn was you have to be okay with criticism of others critiquing your work. And that's one of the hardest things to do, is because you might love something and then somebody critiques it and they're like, yeah, we're not using that. And then you're just like, I just spent 4 hours making this thing. What are you talking about? We're not using it. And so little things like that, you have to be okay with others critiquing your work and you taking on that critique and be like, okay, this is the direction I need to go. So I think, like you said, those two things is learning that failure isn't a bad thing in this area when it comes to creative avenues and creative thoughts and different things like that. And learn to, learn to take on critiques well. I think that's the biggest thing, because you can take on critiques and just hold it on and be like, I hate that person.
I would even add to that as a spiritual component is that a lot of times when I was dealing with those moments of someone's critiquing my work, for example, I made a sermon series for Pentecost Sunday. I remember this clear as day because it hurt that much. We're in the main sanctuary and it shows up on the screen for the first time for everybody. So all the campus pastors, a lot of leaders were there, people who like had big voices in the church. And it pops up and I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, that's it. No one's going to say nothing. It's perfect. And I'm sitting there in the pew with everybody.
This is great.
So I kind of like stand up a little bit. I'm like, I'm ready for anyone to say nothing. And people just start dogging it, bro. They're like, why is this or this? That's not biblically correct. Why is that? And this is it. I'm like, and mind you, I'm under leadership now. Yeah. So now I'm feeling the pain of people's criticism. And on top of it, I'm now processing in my own head, I'm under leadership. Why isn't my leader defending me? So this is the point I'm trying to get at. The faster we can detach our identity off of our works, this whole process is going to be so much easier. And that for me has been a huge, vital part to my walk with Christ. When I take my identity off of things, when I take my identity off my works with my hands, what I say to people, how people react to me, once I detach myself from those things and attach my identity to what really matters, which is eternity and the truths that God has said in His Word, the faster everything becomes, in the sense of getting the critiques and receiving it in a healthy way. Because I can now perceive what they're saying. Yes, their words might hurt, but I can see behind the words, underlining that they're not trying to bring down who I am as a designer, but they're just trying to make sure, in the context of the example, that this design portrays biblically what Pentecost is, but two, speaks to the context of the congregation we're showing this to. And for me, that was such a huge moment for me, because I cried, bro. When I tell you I cried, that was the day for my creative career rise. My creative moment of, wow, I really have an issue here as a creative, not just perfectionism, but now I have an identity issue. And that was a big thing, because now I'm looking at social media, I'm looking at all these different things, and I'm attaching myself to other stuff where I don't need to.
And I think what you're saying is so good, because the ultimate thing that we need to attach ourselves to is God. In the midst of us being creative, is that we have to know, all right, Lord, I'm using my hands and the gifts that you gave me to work on something that I think is going to bless other people. But at the end of the day, your will be done, and and God's love and grace will be shown to people through your giftings and through whatever you create. And so I think that is so great, Bradley. I think, talking about social media and talking about not allowing it to consume our lives, and talking about how we can still be creative in the middle of how social media has just totally consumed the world today. We can still be creative and still find a balance of being sober-minded and everything. And I think this is just an encouragement to me I love creating stuff. I love creating content. I love doing things like that. And I think this conversation is going to be an encouragement to people who are listening to be like, God's given me some creative ideas, and maybe I need to walk in them, And so I want to thank you for being on this podcast. I think this was a great topic to discuss. Just thank you, man, for just being such a great friend to me all these years and being close by my side. It's been great doing life with you, and it's exciting to see all that God's doing in and through you in the creative avenues that you are in. So we're so glad that you were able to join us. Well, we want to thank everyone else for being on the Journey podcast today. It was a great conversation, and we can't wait to see you next week for the Journey podcast. We're going to have a great guest. We'll see you next week.